Picture this. The room is dimly lit, candles flicker, a circle of seekers hold hands, and the medium begins to call upon the spirits of the dead. The air grows still. A presence is felt. A message comes through. The room is convinced. We have spoken to the beyond. But Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, one of the most enigmatic and controversial mystics of the 19th century, issued a warning that few dared to take seriously. Who are you really talking to? According to Blavatsky, the answers we receive during séances may not come from our deceased loved ones or enlightened souls. Instead, we may be communing with something else entirely, something hollow, deceptive, and far from divine. In her groundbreaking work, Isis Unveiled, she shattered the romantic image of spirit communication. What people believed were departed souls, she identified as astral remnants, mere shells, or kamarupa, echoing fragments of personality, memory, and emotion. These are not conscious beings. They are the residual energies left behind after death, sometimes called elementals or astral husks. They mimic, they respond, they deceive, but they do not think or feel. In this video, we'll explore what Blavatsky really meant when she warned against blind participation in séances. We'll explore the metaphysical reality behind death, the illusion of spirit voices, and the difference between true contact and astral mimicry. If you've ever wondered about the spirit world or sought comfort through mediumship, what you'll hear may challenge everything you believe. But perhaps, as Blavatsky insisted, that challenge is exactly what your soul needs. To understand Blavatsky's warning, we must first understand her view of death. In Theosophy, death is not an end, it is a transition. The human being is composed of multiple layers: physical body, astral body, prana, vital force, mind, manas, soul, and spirit. When a person dies, the physical body decomposes, but the other layers do not vanish immediately. The higher spiritual essence begins to rise toward Devachan, a realm of rest and spiritual assimilation. But the lower parts, the astral body, emotions, and personal memories, remain in the subtle realm for a time. These remnants are what Blavatsky called kamarupa, the shell of desire. They may linger in the lower astral plane, filled with echoes of who the person once was. These are not ghosts in the romantic sense. They are psychic residues, devoid of the soul's light, but still capable of generating responses and imitating the voice and habits of the deceased. When a medium at a séance opens themselves to spirits, Blavatsky claimed that they often tap into these leftover fragments. The tragedy is that seekers believe they are receiving wisdom, forgiveness, or guidance from departed loved ones, when in reality, they are speaking to echoes. Not evil, necessarily, but empty, without the immortal soul, without true awareness. This misunderstanding, Blavatsky insisted, not only misguides the living, it disturbs the dead. And this interference, though well-intentioned, can bind these astral shells to the earthly plane far longer than they are meant to stay. Blavatsky's critique of spiritualism was not rooted in cynicism. She acknowledged that psychic phenomena were real. Lights did flicker, tables moved, voices emerged. But she emphasized, just because a phenomenon is real does not mean it is spiritually beneficial. The tragedy, she wrote, is that seekers often mistake psychic noise for spiritual truth. They open themselves to invisible influences without discernment, without understanding the nature of the forces they invoke. These astral remnants, what she called elementaries, can respond to emotion, mimic voices, and project familiar phrases. But they are not conscious. They are not progressing souls. And here lies the danger. In speaking to what we believe is our grandmother, our child, or our spouse, we may be communing with a shell that cannot love, forgive, or guide. The messages received may seem comforting, but they are echoes of memories, not new wisdom. Worse still, some of these entities become parasitic. Drawn to energy, they feed off emotion. Mediums may experience exhaustion, confusion, or even obsession, not because they are cursed, but because they are entangled with forms that should have dissolved. Blavatsky's warning was clear. Without knowledge of the occult structure of the human being, seances become invitations to illusion. And when illusion is mistaken for truth, the soul's evolution is delayed. True spiritual growth begins not with phenomena, but with understanding. Not with voices in the dark, but with light in the mind. Blavatsky held a particularly strong opinion about mediums. She did not deny their sensitivity or sincerity, but she criticized their lack of knowledge. To her, a medium was like a person opening every door of their house, inviting any traveler in without asking who they are or where they came from. The medium becomes a passive instrument, vulnerable to any astral presence in the vicinity. And in many cases, what enters is not divine spirit, but disembodied leftovers. The medium becomes a tool, not for illumination, but for confusion. Blavatsky even suggested that continued mediumship could deplete one's own vital force. In some cases, she believed mediums were drained by the very entities they thought they were helping. She compared it to magnetic vampirism, a transfer of energy from the living to the lingering. This is not to demonize mediums, but to call for discernment. Blavatsky taught that spiritual perception must be trained, disciplined, and guided by wisdom, not curiosity. The higher planes do not descend into darkness to give us cheap tricks. To reach them, we must raise our own vibration through inner work, purity, and deep meditation. Real contact with elevated beings is possible, she said, but it never occurs in the theatrical setting of a séance. True wisdom comes in silence, not spectacle. And those who truly wish to contact the spiritual world must first learn to master their own. Blavatsky introduced another disturbing element into the conversation, literally. Beyond the Kamarupa, she described the presence of elementals, non-human spirits that populate the subtle realms. These are forces of nature, not spirits of the dead. They belong to the hidden architecture of the cosmos, linked to air, fire, water, and earth. They are not evil, but they are amoral. Elementals do not possess consciousness as humans understand it. They respond to vibration, and in the presence of a medium, they can manifest phenomena, knocks, lights, whispers. They can even manipulate the astral remnants of the dead to create a convincing illusion. In many séances, Blavatsky believed, it was the elementals who animated the shells, projecting images, crafting responses, and enhancing the performance. The medium becomes the conductor of an invisible orchestra, but the players are wild, chaotic, and indifferent to truth. This is why Blavatsky called for sacred caution. Without understanding what elementals are, we may mistake them for guides, angels, or ancestors. But they are none of these. They are part of nature's hidden machinery, and their power, if not properly understood, can overwhelm the unprepared. In Theosophy, knowledge is the first protection, and when it comes to the unseen, ignorance is not bliss. It is danger. Blavatsky did not merely warn about the metaphysical confusion caused by séances. She pointed to something deeper, ethical distortion. When people believe they are speaking to the wise dead, they may blindly follow any guidance they receive. This opens the door to manipulation, dependency, and even delusion. What begins as comfort quickly becomes doctrine. Blavatsky saw this happening within popular spiritualist circles of her time. People clung to messages from the other side, shaping their lives, beliefs, and even morals around the voice of an unknown entity. But if that voice is not a true soul, if it is merely a fragment or a projected echo, then the foundation is false. Worse, it may interfere with the soul of the departed. In The Key to Theosophy, she explained that calling back the dead can disturb their rest, their transition, their integration. The departed soul needs peace, not attention, and those left behind must learn to grieve with dignity, not grasp at phantoms. The ethical path, she argued, is not to deny death, but to understand it. Not to cling to the shadow of a person, but to honor their journey by living our own with depth and truth. Karma, evolution, and reincarnation provide the soul with space to grow. Interrupting that cycle with séance drama is not love, it is ignorance. and the cost is higher than we know. Despite her fierce critique, Blavatsky did not reject all psychic or mediumistic phenomena outright. In fact, she herself demonstrated certain occult abilities, telepathy, clairvoyance, and what she called astral travel. She believed that spiritual perception was real, and that the human mind had untapped capacities. What she condemned was not the phenomena, but the misunderstanding of it. She accused spiritualists of being untrained and uncritical, accepting every flicker as a sign, every whisper as wisdom. In her view, this cheapened the true sacredness of the unseen world. Theosophy called for a different path, one of initiation, discipline, and inner development. Blavatsky encouraged seekers to build spiritual strength, not rely on external voices. To discern between illusion and truth, one must purify the heart and illuminate the mind. Only then, she said, could true contact with higher beings occur. These beings, she called them Mahatmas or masters, would never appear in a séance room. They communicate through intuition, dreams, and silence, guiding the sincere, not entertaining the curious. Thus, Blavatsky's warning was not against the invisible world, but against how carelessly we approach it. One of the most dangerous assumptions in séances, according to Blavatsky, is the illusion of control. Participants believe that by forming a circle and focusing intention, they are in charge. But in the subtle world, intention alone is not enough. Without knowledge, protection, and purification, the circle becomes an open wound. You don't choose who responds, you simply broadcast a signal, and whatever astral presence picks it up may enter. This is not about fear, it is about realism. Just as one does not wander into a wild forest without preparation, one should not enter the astral world without training. Blavatsky emphasized that the astral plane is not a paradise. It is a liminal space, filled with wandering fragments, confused energies, and chaotic impressions. When you attempt to control that world from a place of ignorance, you open yourself to confusion, illusion, and even obsession. Many well-meaning people have lost mental clarity, emotional balance, and spiritual direction by playing with forces they do not understand. And sadly, few are willing to listen until it is too late. Blavatsky's voice, though controversial, was firm. Do not seek the spirit world until you have sought your own soul first. If séances are mostly contacting astral shells, then where are the true souls of the dead? Blavatsky answered, they are in devachan, a state of blissful rest between incarnations. This is not a physical place, but a spiritual condition where the soul processes its last life, assimilates lessons, and prepares for future growth. In devachan, the soul is not concerned with earthly affairs. It does not linger in pain or desire. It dreams in peace. To call it back from that state is to disturb its sacred rhythm. Blavatsky urged mourners to let go, not to forget, but to release. The more we hold on with emotional force, the more we bind the lower shells to the astral realm. True love, she taught, lets go. True devotion prays, but does not cling. In honoring the journey of the soul, we allow it to continue its evolution without interference, and this, more than any séance, is the real act of spiritual love. Blavatsky did not discourage spiritual communication. She refined its method. Rather than séances, she pointed to study, meditation, service, and inner transformation. Communication with the higher world, she said, does not require a table, a candle, or a medium. It requires a purified heart and a trained mind. The voice of the spirit is subtle. It speaks through intuition, synchronicity, and inner knowing. The more we silence the ego, the more we hear it. Theosophy invites seekers to become chelas, disciples of truth, not blind followers, but awakened beings. In time, as the inner senses awaken, one may contact the masters of wisdom, not through spectacle, but through sacred preparation. These contacts are rare, silent, and transformative. They leave no doubt, no confusion, no dependency. They empower the soul, not the personality, and they never appear in séances. More than a century has passed since Blavatsky issued her warnings, Yet the fascination with spirit communication remains. From social media psychics to viral ghost stories, humanity still yearns to pierce the veil. And while many of these expressions are sincere, Blavatsky's teachings remind us to ask, what is the source? Is the message empowering or entrancing? Is the presence elevating or draining? Does it awaken your soul or flatter your fear? These questions are not designed to scare, but to awaken discernment. The modern seeker must combine heart with reason, devotion with discrimination. The true path is not to chase signs, but to become a source of light yourself. And when you become that, clear, grounded, inwardly luminous, the true teachers will find you, not in séances, but in silence. Helena Blavatsky did not wish to condemn those who sought contact with the departed. She understood the pain of loss, the hunger for connection, the hope for reassurance. But she also knew that without understanding, this search could mislead, confuse, and even harm. Her message was not to fear the invisible, but to study it, to approach it with reverence, not curiosity. With training, not passivity. In Theosophy, death is not the end, and neither is a séance the way forward. Real contact with spirit is possible, but it does not happen by dimming the lights. It happens by illuminating the soul. If we truly wish to know who we are talking to, we must first know who we are. In the end, Blavatsky's message was not a rejection of mystery, but a call to approach it with wisdom. She did not deny the spirit world. She revealed its complexity. She asked us not to stop seeking, but to seek rightly. If you are drawn to the unseen, don't begin by calling out into the darkness. Begin by going inward. Cleanse your thoughts. Discipline your mind. Awaken your inner senses. Then, and only then, will you begin to attract what is true. Voices not of the dead, but of eternal truth. The world beyond the veil is real. But so is illusion. The astral plane is filled with echoes, masks, and energy that mimics truth. But truth itself speaks only to those who are prepared. Séances may open a door, but it is a door without a lock, and anyone can walk through. Theosophy teaches us to build a temple within, where only the highest may enter. So next time you hear a voice from beyond, ask not just who it sounds like, ask who it really is. And more importantly, ask who you are becoming as you listen. For in the search for others, the greatest discovery may be yourself. If this message brought new clarity or challenged your view of the unseen world, let us know in the comments. What do you believe we're really contacting during a séance? And if you want to go deeper into the hidden truths of the soul, the cosmos, and ancient wisdom, be sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with fellow seekers. Your journey begins not with a knock on the table, but with a knock on your own heart.